Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
That was a radio news report from October of 1938 when aliens landed on Earth. I know it sounds strange, but bear with me. It was October of 1938 when news reports came of alien sightings across New Jersey. The news of the invasion was first announced on the Columbia Broadcasting System. And as you can imagine, people panicked. People picked up sticks and guns and went to the place where the Martians had been reported to be seen so that they could fight them and defend the Earth. Police were deployed at that location, which was a farmland in rural New Jersey, so that people wouldn't enter the facility and see what had come. Now I'm just going to play you a radio news report that had come out at the time that was put out by CBS. Now it may be a little bit loud, so just a warning.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marion. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. The more state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles, spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Everything that I've told you so far has been a lie. Not the part about being first broadcast on the CBS, or not even the part about it leading to mass panic among people, but just the main big part of the whole invasion. Now what you heard was part of a radio show that was put out in October of 1938, which was based on H.G. Wells' book The War of the Worlds. I was reading about this and I just thought, why would anyone want to create something that they know could have such an effect on the audience? Who would even want to make a show like this? This guy. This is Orson Welles. Orson Welles had a radio show back in the day where he adapted different novels to radio dramas. One of his earlier works was when he adapted Bram Stoker's Dracula to a radio show. At the time, these were wildly successful. Keep in mind that the radio had just come about and it was just gaining popularity. He decided that he wanted to do a very realistic rendering of the War of the Worlds. Now, the book War of the Worlds is set in England and it talks about exactly what you think it might. It talks about aliens invading the planet and devastating and completely annihilating Earth. Orson decided that he wanted to play around with the medium and give out a more realistic product. He wanted people to believe that this was actually happening. He wanted to make it sound as real as possible. And despite the fact that this show came with a warning that everything that you're hearing is fictional, people still went out, picked up guns, and wanted to fight the Martians. Now, it may seem like I'm not going anywhere with this, but bear with me. I still wanted to know why Orson Welles did what he did. I was looking at a bunch of interviews when I came across this.
We were fed up the way in which everything that came over this new magic box, the radio, was being swallowed. People, do suspect what they read in the newspapers and what people tell them, but when the radio came, and I suppose now television, anything that came through that new machine was believed. So in a way, our broadcast was an assault on the credibility of that machine. We wanted people to understand that they shouldn't take any opinion predigested, and they shouldn't swallow everything that came through the tap, whether it was radio or not.
Now, this last line where he talks about people not taking any opinions predigested is very, very important, especially now. We're living in this information-saturated world where we don't even know what's true and what's not. More information can lead to misinformation, which we have seen very well in these past few months. It's getting increasingly impossible to verify facts. It's getting increasingly impossible to know what's the truth. I saw this video where Denzel Washington said something like one of the long-term effects of too much information is that you don't even need to be true, but you need to be first. That just fucks with the credibility of news. Now, going back to Orson Welles, according to his logic, what the novelty of radio or any new medium brought with it was this notion that they would 100% trust what was coming out of that medium. Now, if you compare that to today, what radio back then was to Orson, today it's social media, it's WhatsApp, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's all of these different avenues where people get their news from. Now, I wanted to tell the story of Martians invading the planet because the annoyance that Orson felt back in the day is what a lot of people feel even today. Blind faith in anyone or any medium is completely detrimental to the truth. And by default, it's completely detrimental to all institutions that claim to be truthful, like the media. Now, if you switch on any news channel today, you'll realize what I'm talking about. If you look at the news media, at least the television news media today, you will see that all of them are focused only and only on one thing: vilifying Bollywood actors for drugs, or finding random topics, or celebrating. Oh no, that's bad. Ram Mandir nahi bolna chahiye. My point is, there are a lot of important issues that these news channels can talk about. They have such a wide reach, but they're too busy sucking up to the government. We're living in the middle of a pandemic. Unemployment is on the rise. The GDP has just tanked. And we're far more concerned about the Bollywood drug mafia than all of these important topics that actually matter to our day-to-day survival. The mainstream media is a joke, which is why I'm making this video. Now, if you're still watching this, I implore you to support independent news media houses, independent journalists, because to be honest, journalists do not get into journalism because they want to make a quick buck. It is not a lucrative profession at all, unless you're working for the government. Your attention is precious and it is not worthy of being spent on bad journalism, if you can call that journalism. Being informed is a privilege that everyone can afford, especially now. So please make sure that you're not misinformed. I am not a journalist, but I have been following a few very good journalists and media organizations who are doing the work that these mainstream media organizations should be doing. But anyway, I have linked all of them in the description below, who you can follow for the objective truth, the actual facts that affect us in real life, and very insightful debates. So please support independent journalism because that is the need of the hour. And to end with, I think this video would be the perfect end.
We're living in the middle of chaos. We have governments who should be focusing on the pandemic, where India currently is registering the highest number of deaths anywhere in the world. 1,000 people are dying every day in our country simply of COVID. We have eyeball to eyeball action with China at -5 degrees temperatures, and we have troops standing there unable to drop their shoulders because of the tension at that border. That should be the focus. We have an economy that is in desperate need of rescuing, and no rescuing is in sight. It has been 100 days since the government suggested they might come up with a solution. We've seen no solution. That is a problem. Farmer suicides being reported from across the country. Unemployment being reported from across the country. In cities like Bangalore, there are reports of chain snatching and phone snatching from young people aged 14 and 15, obviously because there isn't enough money in the house. These are our problems right now. 56 grams of marijuana / weed / ganja is not a problem for our central agencies to be focusing on. Can we please have a little bit of perspective in this country? Also, we cannot have central agencies being influenced by the media that has seemed to have completely lost its bearing on what its job is, which is running reality TV in competition with general entertainment right now. We have central agencies coming in to investigate ordinary people and putting up such weak cases that I've had lawyers having trouble keep a straight face at that remand copy because it is laughable, it is ridiculous, it is embarrassing that we've had to have this conversation today. It is embarrassing, and the scary part about it is tomorrow it could be you or me. If it is convenient for the media and the agencies and the governments to win elections, to distract, it could be us tomorrow. It could be your kids. It could be your sister, your brother, your aunt. And the manner in which this family has been treated for something like 56 grams of weed, for heaven's sake, we need to stop and introspect on who we have become. It's because we are giving our attention to these television channels, because we're not demanding more from the media, more from the police, more from the investigating agencies, and more from our judiciary. And for heaven's sake, more from our elected government. Because we are willing to get distracted by sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You don't want to listen to the hard stories about the farmer who put the food on your plate has just killed himself. You don't want to hear the hard stories about rights of people that are being crushed, about migrant laborers who had to walk to their villages and are now starving there. You don't want to hear the truth about troops who are being shot at the border. You want the easy story. And we're going to have to pay with our freedom for it. It is not a laughing matter. It is our fundamental and most basic right in this country.